Yo, it's almost the end of the year, and y'all know what that means? It means everybody gonna get shook because after the holiday season of eating turkey and getting gifts and spending money, it's gonna be time to file your taxes. So a lot of people are gonna be nervous, a lot of people are gonna be concerned. But this is one time that the IRS, the federal government, is doing something to benefit you because of inflation. I'm lying. They really are doing the bare minimum. Like, if you were out at a club, right, and somebody bumped into you and you spilled your drink, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, my fault. I didn't mean to bump into you." And they hand you a napkin, and you look at them like, "Man, you hand me a napkin? That's the least you could do. I spilled this drink on my, new outfit or something like that." Well, this is one of those situations where what the IRS is doing to adjust your tax bracket because of inflation is kind of the least cool thing that they can do. It's like the bare minimum of things that they can do. Yo, what's good? I'm Marcus, licensed attorney, but not your attorney, not legal or financial advice. Just giving my takes on financial topics, current events, and letting y'all know what we got cracking in the household of the debt free dad as we are on our journey to become first generation millionaires. So, like I said in the intro, the IRS is adjusting the tax brackets because of inflation. It's good, but not good enough. Like I said in the beginning, it's just kind of bare minimum. But what this means for you is that you should see an increase in your paycheck starting in 2023. Hey, more money in your pocket is always a good thing, especially when the cost of everything is going up. I lie to y'all now. I spent $109 in the grocery store and I got like a slab of ribs, some pork chops, like ice cream. I got like seven things. It was ridiculous as hell, but I digress. Now, let's just imagine you're living paycheck to paycheck. And if you are living paycheck to paycheck, this information and video is directly for you. So listen up. Let's say you get a 7% raise at your job and inflation is up 7%. Now, we all know what inflation is. Inflation is when your dollar loses its purchasing power because the price of everything is going up. So you're working at your job, you get a 7% raise, and inflation is 7%. I'm gonna give y'all a quiz. Are you in a better position than you were before you got the raise and inflation was calculated? Are you in the same position you were in, or are you in a worse position? What do y'all think? Let me know. I'm gonna give y'all a few minutes. A lot of people are going to look at that and say, I'm in the exact same position. I got a 7% raise, inflation, the cost of everything went up 7%. So I'm in the same position. And well, that's actually not true. Actually, you're in a worse position because you are making more money. So you are going to pay more in taxes. So you're actually in a worse position than you were before you got the 7% raise and before 7% inflation had actually kicked in. The government is doing everything they can to curb inflation. We just saw that, this year the government continued to raise interest rates as a way to try to curb inflation. The government is trying to cool off wages and slow down the job market as a way to curb off inflation. Now, I got a whole nother economic view on if this is good policy or not, but we'll save that for another video. But in short, inflation is kind of bad for most people, but it's actually good for the government. Why? Because inflation is up, wages are up. Wages went up like 7% last month. Wages are up, and when people get paid more, they pay more in taxes. So the government collected like a record $4.9 trillion in taxes. But it's irrelevant because they spent like $6.9 trillion. So the government needs Dave Ramsey. They need to be on baby step 2 so they can pay off their debt. Now let's talk about what the government is doing. The government is going to give a 7% increase in each tax bracket. Okay, DFD, what the hell does that mean? A 7% increase in each tax bracket? Well, let's kind of talk about how taxes work. And I actually thought about creating a neat, nifty chart, but then I said, you know what? That's too much to do. So I'm gonna just talk y'all through it. Y'all can follow along. If you miss it or I go too fast, just rewind it back to this point. And if this video long enough, I'll put chapters in. Now, Our tax code works on a bracketed system. So here's the breakdown. Let's say you make $80,000 per year, you're in a 22% tax bracket. That does not mean that you're paying 22% of that $80,000 that you've made per year. Again, it's tiered based. There's a bracketing system. So how that $80,000 would actually be taxed, the first 10,000 is taxed at 10%. The next 30,000 is taxed at 12%, and then the next 40,000 is taxed at 22%. So when you actually break those numbers down, that $80,000 salary that you got, you're paying about 16% in taxes on that. But that's what I mean by a bracketed system. Just because you're in the 22% tax bracket, just like the example I gave, doesn't mean that you're paying 22% taxes on all of your income. It's a bracketed based system, it's a tier based system, and you pay a different amount of taxes depending on the amount of income that falls in that particular bracket or tier. So again, like I said, because inflation are up, wages are up due to inflation, thus people are paying more in taxes. So the IRS is adjusting the tax bracket to compensate for 7%. Let's look at the previous example where a person made $80,000 a year. They're in a 22% tax bracket. We already know that you don't pay 22% on the entire 80,000. So since the IRS is adjusting the tax bracket to compensate for 7% inflation, they're actually going to allow you to make more money within each bracket. So let's look back at our $80,000 example. Remember, the first 10,000 originally was taxed at 10%. Well, things are going to change. The government is giving us a 7% buffer because of inflation. So now the first 10,700 is taxed at 10%. So the government is effectively allowing you to make more money and pay the same amount of taxes in a particular bracket. So as you go up in the bracket, they're allowing a 7% additional income to be made in each bracket that's going to be taxed at the same level. Again, this is good news, but this is the least the IRS can do for us because let's just be real. We know inflation is much higher than 7%. The last time we looked at CPI data, inflation was around 8.2 or 8.5%. Let me know if y'all want a video on why the government always undershoots inflation, and I can kind of break that down. And again, the other reason why this is the least they can do is because these adjustments don't take place until 2023. So think about it. Next year, you'll see a little bit more money in your paycheck. However, this isn't for the taxes that we will file in 2022. So if they really wanted it to have a real immediate impact, they would have applied this retroactively. So all the income we made this year, they would have allowed us to have that 7% cushion or that 7% buffer because of inflation, and we would have been able to see an immediate benefit because people would have either gotten a bigger refund or owed less money or something to that effect. If you enjoyed this video, check out the video on the screen. It's more helpful information related to taxes, IRS, and why you don't want to owe them and what you can do if you do owe them.